Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Let me give you a basic introduction of what we're doing today. So I'm going to be playing Satisfactory in the early access experimental build, and basically what I'm going to be doing is just building a factory that sends materials back to Earth through a big space elevator. That's basically what the game is all about. Very simple, but also very complex. And you'll see later on it gets a little wacky. But welcome. So for some people it might be more used to Satisfactory, you know what some things are. For what I'm doing, it's going to be on the Northern Forest map, mainly just because it has a ton of resources. I can play other maps in the future if you guys are interested, but this is where I'm going to be. And now the settings that I'm going to set is tier 2 starting tier. And we're starting at the beginning of the game. So basically, we have all the tier 1 stuff unlocked because that's practically tutorial stuff and it's almost needed for the splitters and stuff to set up good systems in the start without having a huge headache. So I went ahead and started with that second tier instead, tier 1. If you're interested in starting or seeing me start from the ground up, I can change that, but that's currently what the settings are for the world. And I actually already have it made, and in the world I have miners set on iron, limestone, and copper, and I chose the starting location. Chiefly because it is probably one of the more boring parts of the game, is starting. So to get more into the thick of it, I'm still starting at the beginning, but it's just to speed things up a little bit. I've already got the miners built, so when we get in there, I'm going right off the bat. I'm going to explain my line of thinking and what I'm doing. But basically, I'm an electrical engineer, and I'm just going to apply some of my logic to the game as I play it. Um, and I really hope you enjoy. Thank you for tuning in, and sorry for this long-winded intro, but basically that's what's going on. We got the settings set tier 2 with our miners built, and we're gonna get right into it, okay? Uh, Thank you for tuning in, welcome, and I hope you enjoy the video. Immediately, my first thought is we have to clean this up. This is interesting what's happening here. We're going to have to clean this whole area up and fix what we have going on here because this is not good for a factory. It works to begin with, but it lacks organization and structure. So that's the first thing we're going to deal with. And we already have the three basic resources here. There's limestone, iron, and copper. So we have an abundant amount of iron here. And I think we have a decent amount of copper in this area as well. This planet is very mineral rich, which is great for us because we need a lot of resources to produce the components that Earth needs. However, that being said, I'm not necessarily sure that we are going to be sticking around here. Most likely, what will happen is we produce a lot of the basic materials and things that we need here, and we'll probably end up shipping them to a larger warehouse or building off of this site because it's a very small area. Looking down here, there's a lot of open space. I wouldn't mind moving stuff down there, but we can worry about that in a long time. Right now, we need to clean up what's going on here and make a small structure where we can actually produce and store our materials. So, let's begin with that. Right away, let's go ahead into here. And we already have the tier 1 research, field research, logistics, and base building. So we're off to a very strong start. We have a lot of things immediately active here, but there's a lot we still have to do. So, what do we want to get next? Logistics Mark II would be pretty reasonable. So would part assembly and obstacle clearing. Between these two stick out the most to me. This one solves a lot of our fuel problems. But having conveyor Mark II would solve a lot of logistic problems that we're dealing with right now in our base. And anything further than this is going to be inaccessible. So, part assembly I'm not very worried about in the long run because we can't even use any of these resources whatsoever until much later on. So right away, I say we start with level 2 conveyor belts, but we're not going to be filling that quite yet. I'm going to go and gather these resources, and then I need to check our limestone and gather the concrete, and we need to immediately start clearing up what's going on here. Because we lack organization. And one of the most important things in engineering, construction, whatever you might say, is organized structure. Basically being able to know where everything is. If you were designing like a circuit, you wouldn't want a jumble of wires. You would want it to be organized. You plug in your computer. You want things to be sorted, because otherwise, as things get more complex, and you start adding more things, there might not be any space for them, and you might not even know where you're putting it because there's too much stuff blocking what you've already previously made. So we're going to gather up all this concrete. And there we go. So we have our 3 basic resources. We only have 1 concrete deposit here. We have our iron there, and our copper over there. So what I want to immediately do is start sorting out the iron since it's the closest to our base. And the way we're going to do that is by using foundations. And our tools here provide us with a really simple way of making things organized, because these foundations are practically a godsend in the long run. So we're going to go ahead and start working on that. We'll start from over here. Seems to make the most sense to me. Something we have to be careful of is that these iron deposits over here we're going to want to access eventually. So we want to avoid getting in the way as much as possible, while still having a reasonably sized base here. And now again, I believe that we're probably going to end up not sticking around this area for very long, but that being said, we still want a reasonable base camp where we can do things in an organized and efficient manner. That's another thing, is efficiency. We'll go over that in a second, but starting off a factory, you're going to need organization. So we're going to go ahead and fill out the floors here. Before we do anything else. Let's clear up all this grass over here. And now the reason why we want all these floors and we're not really destroying anything yet is because I still need resources. We're lacking in our own resources as much as we want to give Earth some. So there's a lot we need to do. Not to mention, this planet is a very hostile planet full of angry alien life that does not want me here. So we're going to have to eventually develop tools and resources that will help us defend ourselves against the hostile threats. For now, we have this clear open area, though, with abundant resources. We don't have to worry about that until we have to venture out from this area. Okay. This is a reasonable platform. We're gonna make it a little bigger, though. The problem is, right, I don't think we can fit it yet because this is in the way. So we're gonna actually start dismantling the curved machinery we have here and begin building more of a floor. Simple enough. That will cause maybe some problems. Actually, no. That's right. There we go. Dismantling all this. Only thing we want left standing is the miner and maybe this splitter. Now, what's great about this planet is, although it's full of hostile life, it is extremely resource abundant. So, we're pretty lucky in that regard, because there is a very large amount of resources for us to work with. So we have a lot of room. With the amount of resources we have to work with, there's a lot we can do. But first things first, we're going to dismantle this. We're actually going to dismantle the splitter as well, and this. Because what we want to do is immediately send all the resources we're gathering up onto the factory floor. Because the sooner we get resources up onto here, basically the better. We don't want to waste any time. We're going to build around the miner. And then we want to get the splitter up here immediately. Actually, I'm going to bind this. I'm going to bind this. I'm going to bind this. And I'll even bind this as well. But anyways, we want to get this splitter down immediately. And as you can see, when you have things built on top of these iron floors, it becomes a lot more organized. So we're going to send this up here. Actually, I might even be able to build extra floors here. Let's see if that fits. Oh, I don't think so. What we can do, actually? Oh, no, actually, it won't work. No, alright. Then we'll just build it like this. Okay. So now we have the resources. We have the iron ore getting sent to the splitter. And so something that we immediately want to check is how much iron is this producing. 120 per minute. You'll see it there, where my mouse is pointing. But here's the thing, and the reason why we want Logistics Mark II is because this conveyor belt can only transport 60 things per minute. So, what this basically means is that, although we're making 120 iron per minute, this conveyor belt can only turn around 60. So, with that in mind, we're going to place down a couple of smelters. Probably place one. Hold on, orange side. 2 green. Place one here. And we'll place one right beside it. Here. So it's gonna look a little wonky, but that should be alright. For this one, we want to make sure that it doesn't look too bad, so we're gonna place this here. And then turn it in like that. There you go. Nice little right angle. Whenever you want a good angle on a conveyor, just place one of these underneath, and it makes it look a lot cleaner. And then we only need 30 iron or ore per minute here to make 30 iron ingots per minute. So basically, the simple system here is that when you have 60 resources going into these smelters, you want to split them in half so you have 30 and 30 going into each of these because they each only need 30. Next problem, we have no power. So we're going to send over a power line to right here in the corner. And we're going to begin connecting these to power. Now, what's nice is that once you have a floor like this, we can actually make more of a power grid and evenly space out these poles and have them out of the way without them just looking like they're sitting out in the middle of nowhere like this. So actually what we might do is even just connect this one immediately to the factory floor, which is going to stop things from producing for a moment, but it'll be relatively worth it. So we're going to place it right here. We'll set this up here still. Should be fine. There we go. And we'll send this to here, although we're going to make some changes with the copper over there in a moment. But now we have 2 smelters producing iron ingots, each of them producing 30 a minute. They're both powered, or they should be. Hold on. Oh wait, sorry, I didn't get this. There we go. Now they're both powered. So now what we need is to produce more advanced resources, because iron ingots in themselves are not very useful unless they're formed into either plates, rods, or screws. So we are going to do iron plate production, although we might do something else as well. Let's just take a look at how much iron plates require. So iron plates require 30 iron ingots per minute. This is great because if we send these in right away, you'll have exactly enough of what we need. But we're going to make some extra room here. There we go. Make this a little better. Just a moment. Here. No. We want extra room because we're going to need extra constructors for the other smelter. There we go. Perfect. We're gonna connect this, and this will just make iron plates. Very simple. Okay? And that will be our basic iron plate production. Now, on that point, I'm going to place an extra power line in the center once again. There we go. Place this here. And now you can see the idea of a grid because we have one here, and we can continue making that grid all the way around the base. Although we might not fill all the spots. We want to leave room right now for machines, but should there be a need for any other of these power poles, we'll know exactly where to find them because they meet them at the corners, right? Which keeps it simple so if we ever need to do any form of maintenance or anything to do with the power lines, they'll always be there where we need them. And now we also have these machines ordered, and we want to keep them as close as possible to each other. Something else that we actually need to check though, before we continue. Let me place a constructor and check how much iron. 15 per minute of iron ingots makes iron rods. So, that means with this smelter, we can make iron rods, but we're going to have to split it again. And so let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to send the resources straight into it. Actually place it right here. That's fine. Send them into here. And now we need 2 constructors. So let's see if we can place some more foundations here. Let's go ahead and do that. Make some extra room for these constructors. We want a huge, huge factory floor. We can add a 2nd or 3rd floor to this thing. But right now, for the basic machines, we probably want to use as small amount of space as possible. The one challenge with the current planet we're on is that it's a huge jungle. we're lucky to have this small open space, but we have to use it very efficiently. Otherwise, we'll run out of space very, very quick. There's a lot we have to build right off the bat. Okay, gather more of these plants. And now, let's go ahead and build some constructors. So one we're gonna face this way. Actually, let's do this. We'll do a segmented design. So we're doing one this way, and then we'll do one extra this way. This plane's gonna be a bit different, but this is probably fine. Let's place this here. Oh, that won't work. It's gotta go here. Okay, bring this around here. Strange. Oh, you know what? Let's bring this forward. Just slightly. There we go. Add an extra conveyor into here. There. This will go straight into here. And finally, this will go over here. Turn into here. There we go. Okay, so now for these two constructors, we want iron rods. So we're going to set these both to iron rod construction. And then we are going to send power to one of them and make an extra power line that won't go here, but it will go here. Very simple. Okay, sends that to there. And now we have a bit of a power grid. Now something we want to check whenever we add new machines is how much consumption we're using. So this might be a bit confusing of a graph, but basically there's only two numbers that we want to pay attention to. Not even the graph, but the numbers themselves. And the two numbers that we want to look at are max cons and capacity. Basically, when that blue number reaches the amount that the capacity is, our power is going to go out. So, we want a factory that stays below the gray line, and there are ways we can increase the gray, and we'll probably end up having to do that, but we just want to pay attention because once we go over that, we're going to have some problems and probably run out of necessary power. But now we have iron rods being produced at a rate of 30 per minute with two machines, and we have 20 per minute of iron plates being made. Now, immediately I see a problem, and that is that we're no longer getting any iron. And there's our problem. Turns out our iron was not attached to the power. So let's go ahead and we're actually going to dismantle one of these, connect this to here, because that's closer. And then we'll probably use... let's dismantle this power line. We'll connect this to here. Keep things neat. And we'll connect this to this constructor. There we go. Now we're back online and we'll be producing more iron plates, more iron rods, and everything is at 100% efficiency, which basically just means that we're sending in 60 ore and we're getting out everything in the amount of time it could possibly be made for 60 ore. So we're getting exactly 20 per minute iron plates, exactly 30 per minute iron rods out of this whole system. Okay. So now we have those basic resources being produced, and that's going to be half of what Logistics Mark II is. Another problem that we're going to be looking at is that we have to make those advanced iron plates there that you see, those blue ones. And unlike those standard iron plates, they're much harder to make. So we're going to go ahead and start looking at producing those because we really need those if we plan on progressing any further. But let's grab up more concrete so we make sure we have enough for more construction of our first base here. Okay. So now we have our basic iron production system. Let's go ahead and check something else with our constructors. We want to make this one. And immediately I see a problem. Our constructors are not capable of making the advanced iron plates. So now, what I am realizing is we are most likely going to need a different type of machine. So instead of Logistics Mark II, since our logistics are quite alright at the moment, and it'd be hard to catch up with what we're working with, let's actually check if there's a different machine that we can make. The assembler. This machine is most likely what we need to produce the advanced iron plates. So we're actually going to do this first. That way we can set up an advanced iron plate assembly as soon as possible. Oh, sorry, I didn't do that. Put this back here. Now, we actually are holding a lot of iron ore and iron ingots. What I will do is try to throw those back into the system. There might not be room, but let's just take a look. Oh no, perfect. Okay, 100 of these in here. 100 of these in there. What we'll do is take the rest of this iron ore. Okay. And we're actually just going to trash it, which is a bit weird, but truth be told, if you do things manually in this game, it takes much more time than if you buckle down and build the machines for it. So any sort of raw resource like this that doesn't have room in our system is taking up space in our inventory in the long run. So we're going to trash those as well. Okay. So next step then with our iron assembly here, now that we have 3 constructors, I'm going to place one more constructor right here. And now something else we need is screws. And we only need 10 iron rods per minute. So what we're actually going to do is now that we have 2 systems of iron rod production, we're going to use a conveyor merger. And you could probably immediately guess what this does. Well, we're going to place it right here. We're going to send a conveyor belt to here. And we're going to send another conveyor belt out to here. Hold on, that's off. There we go. Okay. Now we're merging these. And so basically what that means is that this is producing 15 per minute of iron rod, and this is also producing 15 per minute of iron rod. What we then need to do is split these one more time. And that may seem really unusual, but it's going to make a lot of sense in the long run. So what we want to do is split them. And the reason for that is that if you do the math, a constructor needs 10 iron rods per minute to produce screws. What we have here is 15 and 15. So if we combine them here, we now have 30. And when we split them in this one, we're going to send it 3 ways. One way this way, one way this way, and one way this way. And so what this is going to do is it's going to split it by 10, 10, and 10. So what we'll end up with is exactly enough iron rods to produce our screws. So we're going to place 2 more constructors. And since iron rods are a basic resource that we're going to need often, something else that we're going to need to consider is that we want spare. Hold on, we're going to place an extra power cable right here. There we go. You up here. Awesome. And then we need another constructor. I'm going to place it right here. There we go. Anyways, iron rods are a very basic resource that we're going to consistently need, and because of that, we want to leave some spare. So with the 3rd spot that we have left over, instead of placing a 3rd constructor for screws, we're going to place our first storage container. So that's going to be in organization. And we are probably going to eventually move this, but for now, we're just going to place it right here and directly connect the conveyor belt to it. Well, I can add to that. That's okay. Where should we go? There we go. Okay. So now all the spare iron rods will go straight to here. That way we have exactly 10 going to here per minute, 10 going to here per minute, and 10 going to here per minute. So what we'll ultimately end up with is 2 constructors producing tons of screws and spare rods that we can use for other projects. So now in this constructor we have our iron plates. Now that leaves us with only one thing left to do for part assembly, which is the 200 wire cables there. So let me double check our power and see how we're doing. We're probably going to need an extra generator because just looking immediately at it, we are at almost max consumption, which is the blue number there, compared to the gray. Which means that we need an extra generator. So we're going to place one down right now. We're just going to place them outside like this, but eventually what we would like to do is place them up on here. As a matter of fact, I might even place one immediately up on here. But we also have to consider that there's other forms of power, and we'll most likely end up not using these burners in the future. Actually, I'm going to place... You know what? Let me disconnect this. Place on the corner, like so, and then reconnect it over there. So can we make that? Just over there? There we go. Too long. Okay, we'll place an extra one right here. It's gonna be a bit disorganized at first, but we'll work on the copper area in a moment. We're going to actually have to for those cables. Okay, so now that that's all set, let's go ahead and connect up this generator. We need an extra power line right here, and we'll connect this. Okay, so now what we also need to do is power the generator. There we go. Okay, we're actually consuming a lot of fuel, so I'm going to take out all these leaves and such, and we're going to head over here to our crafting bench. And we're going to craft a load of biomass, which is basically our early game fuel. Luckily, HQ, as in Earth, has left us with a mass amount of resources to work with early on. So we haven't run into an issue of running out of resources quite yet, and we shouldn't for the most part. But the one thing that we want to worry about is those advanced iron plates. Those things are a very finite resource until we get a system to construct them. And so our next area, the copper, is going to be very, very important here, that we finish this immediately and unlock the ability to rate the assembler, because it is practically going to be our most important machine that we make thus far for those advanced iron plates. We want a large number of those. So currently it looks like our systems are at a standstill over here. Looks like it's because these machines have hit the maximum amount they can produce. Now, they're producing each 30 per minute of wire, and we need to produce cable. So hold on, let me look around for a moment. Looks like it's simply just iron ingots This one actually has just raw iron ingots waiting as well. But this system is a mess. Quite honestly. It is not good. We're going to have to make some huge edits right off the bat. We have plenty of resources for this stuff anyway. I think right away we're going to have to deconstruct everything here. And once again start from scratch. Now, this one shouldn't take as long, because it's not as much complexity to wires. It's simply ingots straight to wires, and that's it. There's no plates or rods or screws, anything like that. It's not that complex. So we're gonna go ahead and we're just going to right away disconnect all these. And let's simply build a base. So we're gonna start with the floors. Should be obvious. Now what's nice about this one actually is that immediately I'm looking at it, and we can actually line up this floor with this miner, and it's not going to be in the way, which is going to be very, very nice for us. Another positive of this area over here is that it's over, what should I say, it's got like a cliff ledge here. So we can actually use this to our advantage and build a bit outwards this way, and that wouldn't cause us any issue. The foundations here are very, very sturdy, so it shouldn't be an issue if we build up over land like that. That's probably what we're going to have to do to get this thing built. So actually, I'm gonna make this a bit weird, but we're gonna build a ramp. Oh, you know what? We might be able to... I think we have to do big ramps. Build it like this. And then we'll put foundations underneath them. We'll connect them. Hold on. This here. Put this underneath. Okay. Extra foundation right here. And right here. There we go. And basically our goal is to connect this somewhat to our sort of neighboring facility here into one large platform, so we can streamline transport, line up our conveyors properly, and just basically connect all these machines into one large factory floor. So we've almost got that. Building out to this way now, we're going to build some more sizable foundations over here. So immediately what you're probably realizing is that this is not going to line up. And that much was practically a given, truth be told. It's going to be very hard for us to line up anything like that. We don't have any sort of foundations that would be like a filler here. But what we can do is it would look very poorly done, but we can actually just connect foundations into it like this. And it isn't perfect, but our goal really isn't perfection here. As funny as that sounds, our goal is simply just connect them up like this. And honestly, it doesn't look that bad. I look it up. Probably look a bit weird. As a matter of fact, we could even just move this one entirely and then just place a foundation underneath it like so. And it really looks alright in the long run. It's almost a bit humorous. Pack these up. And then place some ramps on them. Okay, there we go. So that honestly is not the worst. Actually, I think in the end I am gonna place a ramp here. And what I will do is just place foundation over here. As much as they'll be hanging off the side, it should be alright. Could even just do that. And then maybe just to make it even, just connect it like this. And that's smooth. That is fluid. Okay. So there we go. Now we have one huge factory floor that spans out from the copper over here to the aisle. So now this makes everything very, very organized because now we have a snap-on grid that goes out throughout this whole area, all the way back here to the copper. So now what we can do is we can start building our copper refinery here. Actually going to place a couple more foundations before we begin. And then we're probably going to do some foundations off the side, just a moment, like so. Because we're going to need a lot of space in this specific build. We can go ahead and do that. There we go. It should go out a decent distance. Yep, there we go. Okay. You can build that into the ground there and add a little extra corner. A little left. Okay. So, now we have plenty of space, and we have our copper mine. So, once again, our copper mine is most likely, yes, 120 copper ore per minute, but you have to keep in mind that these conveyor belts only go at a rate of 60. So, once again, we're only splitting it 30-30 into 2 smelters. So, let's get the smelters down. We could even actually do it like this. Should be a bit unusual, but I think this would be a good idea. So we'll build this around like this. And then we'll build the splitter. We can even build it a bit further out like this. I think, does this connect alright? No, I'm not sure that's okay. This should connect straight. Very good. And then this should just go around to here. Sorry, one off. There. Okay. So we want copper ingots from here. And copper ingots from here. Simple. Okay. So let's go ahead and trash the rest of the copper ore. We don't need that. Okay, so now we've got this split. We have 60 copper ore going out, and we have 30 going in each of these to make copper ingots once again. This is the same as the iron, but this time around, we need quite a few constructors, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to start with one right here immediately, and we need wire. So it only takes 15. So what we can do, actually, and what we're going to do right now, is place some extra foundations out to here. They won't be perfect, but it'll go out a bit into the ground. And we just need a little extra space to place another splitter right against it. There. Okay, so now we want conveyor belts going out. Actually, we want conveyor belts going out from here and straight into this machine right here. There we go. Okay, and now this may look like a problem here. Actually, as a matter of fact, to make things simple, because we don't have logistics Mark II yet. Now that I think about it, let's split off the first one here. Not everything is going to go perfect the first time that you build something. Don't be afraid don't be afraid to destroy things. You don't have to force everything that you try to build. This is a good example of that. I shouldn't have built it off there. Definitely this way was the way to go. But anyways, we're producing wire here, and then we need another constructor to produce more wire. So we're going to place an extra one right here. And this looks a little problematic right off the bat, because it looks as though we've simply cut off our other smelter, But that isn't necessarily true. So let's go ahead and place these copper ingots back into these constructors. So we need a load of wire. Okay. There we go. And now we need to reconnect power. So we're going to go back down to our power lines. We're going to connect one right here. We're going to bring it out over to here. Very, very simple. There we go. And then we're going to bring our power all the way up to our machines here. We're going to place one right here. And then one more. Keep it in this grid formation right here. Perfect. Okay. This one is going to power the miner and smelter. We're going to place an extra one on this end. There we go, that's all 4 connections. And now we still have quite a few machines that need power. This one, and if we place an extra one right outside here, this one. There we go. Now that should be all the machines with power. Let's make sure we're not consuming too much. Consumption looks great. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So we're doing great. We have a ton of wire coming in. And now, if we really want to, nothing else uses copper ingots, so we can take this smelter, split it as well, and make a whole new set of wire. But let's just check very quickly how much it takes to make the cables that we want to produce. 60 wire per minute. That is a lot of wire. Each of these produces 30. So immediately what this tells me is that we probably are going to want to eventually we're going to want to eventually set up the other miner there to give us raw wire, so we have both wire and cable. Although right off the bat, I think we should send all this to one constructor. Simply feed it the wire and make us cable. We can combine them into one merger, and that gives us 60 cable, and then we just simply power it. And we've now got cable production, 30 per minute. Okay. On that note, we are not going to deal with the smelter right away. I have an idea for it, but because of the direction it's faced, it's hard to work with at the moment without having some extra logistics, and we don't necessarily need it because now we have cable. So now let's go ahead and collect the resources from our machines. We've finally reached a point where we can take a breather and let our machines do most of the work, because we've now organized them and set them up in such a way that they can do that. So we're going to go ahead and gather up all these screws, iron plates, and we'll go get those spare rods from the crate as well. Take all these out. We're just basically gathering up some basic resources, and while we get the cables produced, we're going to start adding resources to unlock part assembly into here. And that'll be our first milestone. Go, there we go. And 300 plates. Now we just need the 200 cable, and we'll be feeling pretty good. So we're actually going to toss out, as much as I hate to waste all these ingots, we're probably going to toss them all out. And I'm going to go grab some more concrete, because as a matter of fact, we are nearly all out of concrete. We've used so much building all those platforms throughout the entire base. And so something else that we can do at this point is fix up what's happening here. But something that I'm a little bit frustrated about, not necessarily, but a little annoyed about, is that this is producing 120 per minute. And it's only coming out of 60, so 60 is going here and getting split into 30 and 30. Each of these actually takes 45 per minute, which is a bit of an unusual number. But without proper conveyor belts, this is super inefficient. And so we're not going to touch the limestone until we unlock Mark II logistics. Interestingly enough. And then we'll send a conveyor down from there to bring it all the way down here into a single container. and we'll have our concrete production in order. But until then, we're not really gonna touch it. Okay. On that note, let's grab some extra iron plates. Is this all the iron plate production we have? Yes, it is until we get new conveyor belts. Okay. Grab extra screws. We need a ton of screws in the future, so as much as it looks like we're creating an abundance of screws that we won't need, we're actually going to need a ton. Truth be told. Do I want to... I might leave that open. I might do something with that in the future. Let's see. That brings us to 180 cable. Okay, well, since that's going, we're going to try to take a look at this. Now, we have a conveyor lift. We really lack the resources to be building a ton, but let's just see. We're going to lift it like that. Connect it. And now it should go up off of here. Let's see. Okay. So we can send the ingots upwards like this, and what we'll probably do is go in this direction and go over this, and then set up a whole new production facility, basically the same as this with 2 constructors. So let's go ahead and do that. We can actually even bring it around over here, and maybe that's what we'll do. We probably didn't even need to lift it, as a matter of fact. Hold on. This is gonna look a little silly, but we're gonna do all this. Okay. Okay. On that note, let's go ahead and build this out to here. Looks like it would be possible to do this. Actually, it doesn't look that bad. I know it seems a bit messy to go through the back of the miner like this, individually. But realistically, that's probably how I would do it in real life. Just I wouldn't have it go through. I'd probably just the conveyor belt on the way to get all that clearance. But okay. So now we have our ingots again, and so we're just gonna do the same thing again. We're gonna split it, and then divide it between 2 machines. One right here, one right here. There we go. Okay, we want wire. And wire. There we go. Simple enough. And now we have 2 machines producing wire. Hold on, I gotta power it. Let's see, maybe these have room to spare. Oh, this one definitely does. Okay, we'll place this here. And then we're gonna place it all the way over here. We're gonna place it onto... Here. There we go, perfect. Okay, cable here. And cable there. Perfect. Okay, so now we have just raw wire production, and we might just leave that producing wires, which is a bit unusual, but because I don't want to mess with it too much, because we might need just raw wire eventually, and in any case, we have enough cable at this point to finally unlock part assembly, and this is very, very important to us. I can't stress that enough. Part assembly is super, super important. So let's go ahead and finish that research. Launch it. Awesome. Part assembly has been unlocked. Let's begin Logistics Mark II. As that's reached. Okay. And we're not going to be able to put anything into that yet, but now we have the ability to create the assembler. The assembler requires 4 of these little rotors, and luckily enough, actually, I found rotors in a nearby crash site. So we're going to go ahead and use those. Now the assembler is a complex piece of machinery because it has 2 inputs. So far we've been dealing with single input machines, but the assembler can take in 2 resources at once to produce something. So we're actually going to just place it like this over here. Should be good. And we want to make reinforced iron plates. That requires 12 screws per minute and 60 screws per minute and 30 iron plates per minute. So right now, we're producing 20 per minute in here. So already we can see this as a problem because that's not enough. Now, how many reinforced iron plates do we have? 70. What we could do is try to get Logistics Mark II, and then with Logistics Mark II, we'll have 120 going through here, which would be 45 and 45 into each of these smelters, which is fine. We can add 1 extra smelter, and then set up a new iron plate manufacturer. And then we have to figure out how to combine the 20 and 20 iron plates to get enough that goes into the assembler. Another way that we could do that is simply put them into 1 crate together. But let's also consider, sorry, I should have kept that there. Let's also consider the rotors. Rotors take 25 screws and, 100 screws per minute and 20 iron rods per minute. So let's double check. If I'm not mistaken, we don't have enough rods per minute, but we do have 80 screws, which is almost enough. And we're producing 10 rods per minute. So immediately you probably have realized that our math is not going to add up for any of this. And that's true. But that's the main challenge of this game, is attempting to reach maximum efficiency with unusual numbers like this. So, let's gather up more resources from our basic machines and consider how we can get a system that works for us. So right off the bat, my immediate thought is that if we don't have enough rods and we don't have enough screws to be able to get the resources required, right off the bat, is that we need a whole new system for iron. Because even if we set up this with 2 more smelters like this, we can get just enough resources. Oh, sorry, it would only be 1 more smelter actually. This will be a tough one. Alright, well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've got a very good setup for what we're dealing with here. So, we have an entire system built for iron here, now on the factory floor. We built an entire system for copper. We expanded our power supply a little bit, and we've unlocked our first milestone, and we're about to unlock our second one pretty soon. So I think this is a good place to stop for now. That being said, on the next part, what we're going to do is probably just make some edits to this limestone here, because we're going to unlock Logistics Mark II. We'll make some edits to our iron system, and then we might consider looking at copper, but most likely what we're going to do is place down the assembler, get started on an assembly for advanced iron plates, and then look into assembling those rotors as well, because we're going to need those. And then we might start building up our walls and making the space elevator, or expanding our iron production into 3 other deposits that are placed over here. Regardless, we've made some great progress today, and thank you all for watching to this point. Really appreciate it, and I hope you come around for the next one, because we have a lot of engineering to do. Now then, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you for coming in, and goodbye.